we're going to be talking about working and living in an unprecedented, uncertain work and socializing time. The only thing we know for certain is that we don't know what the future will be, and we don't know what the government and who is going to be sharing with us in terms of additional information. We don't know what the next 12 to 24 months will bring. We know that it will bring change. And has brought change already in the last 140 days. But what we don't know is what the future holds. Organizations and ourselves are still learning about the new world of work and what the new normal will be. There are so many changes that need to happen, both internally in your own organizations and externally, to engage, motivate, attract, and retain employees. Leaders need to develop new skills, empathy, trust, ways to manage performance in a work-from-home environment. 75% of employees polled believe that they are not returning to an actual workplace anytime soon. In fact, there's a number of organizations have said that they won't be returning to their workplace until perhaps sometime in 2021. And then we have to take a look at how has your culture changed in the last 140 days? So let's take a look at a few key areas. So support in work from home. 140 days ago, there were some things that your organization needed to consider. You needed to assess the roles to determine work from home eligibility. You needed to determine, was your technology and your IT framework, could it confirm minimum technology requirements and instruct all eligible employees in how to access it? Was your VPN working and eligible to all employees? Did you and could you establish and communicate the core working hours for working from home? And a lot of other considerations needed to happen. And then some of the actions that you needed to take was immediately building a work from home clause. What was your benefits coverage for working from home? What were the expenses to be covered? What was, were your employees eligible for a T2200? And in doing some research, one of the things I found out was that unless your employment contract had a T2200 eligibility clause in it, then your employees wouldn't be entitled in 2020 to use the T2200 in their income tax. So there's going to be a lot of disappointed employees when they can't claim their lights and their office space and their work from home expenses. So that was something that organizations need to look at. And then audit your work from home technology capability and plan to close some of the gaps. Review and revise employee reimbursement policies to ensure out-of-pocket expense were minimized. If you didn't provide your employees with the right tools to use from their home office and they had to go out and spend money, what were you going to be covering in those expenses? You needed to review your performance management practices and modify to align the work from home equipment. And assess essential competencies required for success in work from home environment, and continue to provide communication and ongoing tips and support to your employees as they worked from home. So when you take a look at performance management practices, there's a number that needed to be adjusted, not only from work from home, but as you moved into recovery. And there were a few building blocks that were mandatory. And were those building blocks communicated in the way so that your employees were aware of what they would be managed on and how their performance would be required or built on? And then there were some optional building blocks as well. And those building blocks that were mandatory were competencies, feedback and coaching, and then goal setting. And then, there's a lot of organizations today that have taken a look at some of the risks and rethinking, what does performance management really mean in the new world of workforce? So is there a risk in your new normal performance management cycle? And what stress will that risk add now, or that new performance cycle add now? Can your business handle a new improved performance management process now? And if so, how is that being communicated to your employees? What does that really look like now? And what are the systemic barriers to inclusion under the current approach? And are there systemic barriers? And have you taken a look at ways to reduce those barriers? And how have you communicated what you're doing? I mean, when it comes to performance management, it's all about communication. It's all about coaching and feedback. And what mechanisms are you ensuring that you're sharing the understanding and the clear objectives and the expectations and continuous feedback? It's really important as your employees are working from home and they're out of sight and not eyeball to eyeball with their managers. How are your managers communicating with them on an ongoing basis? Traditionally, your performance has been linked to your merit increases and your bonuses and other talent actions. Does this still resonate? Is this still what will make sense in your new culture and for your new form of performance management? And there are some stats that have come up and that we've been looking at. And only about 54% of companies are conducting annual or semi-annual reviews in 2020 versus the 82% that were conducting annual reviews in 2016. As a matter of fact, companies today have stopped the performance management process for the remainder of the year. Are you one of those companies? 60% of employees have said getting feedback on a regular basis is very motivating to them, and they really enjoy the discussions that they have with their employees. And yet, 69% of employees say they would work harder if they felt their efforts were better recognized, because only 19% of employees strongly agree that their manager recently reviewed their greatest successes. Those stats are pretty scary when you think about those performance discussions that are not happening. And how many times have you heard from your employees when they say, I've never had a performance discussion with my manager. I don't understand how I'm being assessed and what I'm working towards, or what my goals and objectives are. That 19%, pretty scary as far as I'm concerned. And managers need a lot of support when it comes to performance management. 8 in 10 managers lack the skills in providing feedback and coaching to their employees. Managers tend not to be at the best of time in stress or pressure. And they don't know how to start the discussion. They don't know how to ask the questions. And so, excuse me. And so they don't know how to coach their employees, and they haven't had training on coaching. They haven't set a great leadership example on how to. And their manager, your manager's managers, have not shown them the ways to be successful at managing people. And oftentimes we've heard, I was speaking with a family member the other day who, prior to COVID, was saying he was promoted to a manager level in a bank. He had never managed people. He had only managed process. And we're down 4.5 months into COVID, and he still has not received the training on how to manage people. That's pretty scary, not only for him, but also for the people who are reporting to him. And managers aren't aware on how to provide continuous feedback and how to initiate those candid and courageous discussions and conversations, and do them with compassion and do them with interest, and show that they really have that empathy for their employees. One of the things we need to realize is that empathy builds trust. Trust builds empathy. It's a vicious circle, and yet we need to be building more of that and continuing on that process. We need to measure the results. Even though we're not in FaceTime, we need to measure those results accurately. We need to equip managers and employees with new ways of understanding not only the performance process, but also the feedback and the giving and receiving of feedback. And what does that mean? And also making sure that your employees have a safe environment to speak openly and honestly and with conviction about how they're feeling and what they're going through. Team member impact and self-analysis, or self-assessment rather. How many of your employees are doing 360 feedback? And especially during this heightened pandemic, how are their skills being assessed when they're not working with their employees in close proximity? And are you still using the 360 feedback process? Oftentimes it does make sense to continue with that process because managers get to understand how they're coming across, what their employees are really thinking, and making sure that you're providing an environment that is free of retribution and making it safe for your employees to provide that feedback. So when you take a look at all of this, we can then move on to some of the policies and processes that need to be adapted. And really, it's your whole policy manual that needs to be adapted because there is a risk analysis of not adapting your policies and processes to the current environment. And it might be short term, but I'm not so sure that 12 or 24 months is short term at this point. I think it's the way our businesses need to be looking at what the near future brings and what it really means. Laura Williams, or one of the previous speakers, was talking about health and safety and how important it is now during this pandemic to provide a health and safe and well environment for your employees to work in. And whether they're working on site or whether they're working at home, is their home environment conducive to health and safety and wellness? Are they working at the kitchen counter or are they working in an office? Do they have a proper chair to sit in? How is their ergonomics? We need to be able to think about those things. Have you thought about providing a list to your benefits provider about who's working from home? And do your benefit policies and contracts cover a work from home clause? And are your employees covered for benefits, for a slip, fall, any type of injury that might happen while they're working from home during core business hours? Has your compensation policy changed? Did you reduce salary at the beginning of this pandemic? Were adjustments made, and do they need to be made? And if your compensation policy has changed, then has your performance management policy also changed to include the merit increases and what that really means? What's happening with your bonus for 2020? Did you, as some employees or as some organizations have, they've already sent out a communication saying there will be no bonuses and no incentive pay for 2020. If it's still happening, then you need to communicate that. If it isn't happening and you've adjusted your bonuses for 2020, has the communication gone out and been sent to all of your employees stating what the new process and policy and practice will be for the remainder of 2020? What about your succession plans for all major executives and key roles? The one thing that we're finding out is that there are a number of managers and employees who will not be successful in this new way of work. And have you taken a look at your succession plan for those employees that you know in the back of your mind you're going to be losing one way or the other? And so what does that look like? What's your work from home policy look like? How's your vacation, sick time, disability management? Have you changed your work hours? Have those policies changed, and have you communicated them? Travel, well, we all know that very few people are going to be traveling internationally or down to the States anytime soon with the border not being open. But travel across Canada is also tricky because there's a number of provinces in Canada that are still having major problems with their numbers and their COVID illnesses. And so has your travel policy changed? Has your expense policy changed? What expenses will you be covering from work from home or even setting up a home office? Training and development. Never has it been more important to train and develop your managers and your employees in today's new world. How are they going to work from home when they can't be with their employees and with their coworkers? How are they going to, have they communicated to you and have they initiated discussions with their managers around what employees expect their development to be going forward? Those discussions need to be had. Performance management, we've discussed that. Give me a minute, my computer's acting up, I apologize. And, you know, are you doing a phased return to work? Some people are looking at a 4-day workday, 4-day work week, and then on Fridays, everybody works from home. Others are looking at a 4 and 10 work week, where 4 days you work in the office and 10 days you work from home, so that you're in the office every 3 weeks. And there's certain groups that will be in the office together, rather than all employees being in the office together. A lot of employees are suffering now from, or challenged now from financial insecurity, childcare, elder care. They have parents living with them who are of vulnerable ages, and they don't feel comfortable returning to your office. Have you thought about what you're going to be doing about that? There's no more visitors into the office, and so have you changed your visitor policy? What's your IT security, your cyber security, your privacy, and your high-risk policies? As people work from home and continue to work from home, there's a privacy issue. And the privacy issue is there's family members around them, and family members can hear and see their computer. What are you doing to ensure that that cybersecurity and that privacy is looked after? And then there are some other low-risk policies that don't really need to be changed today, but you should be thinking about them. But you also need to communicate your new and your revised policies and guidelines, and make sure that your employees sign back that they have received the policies and that they have the opportunity to ask any clarifying questions. When you establish clear purpose for policy, it removes ambiguity. So there's a number of things that we need to look at. You need to comply with the laws and regulations. You need to influence behavior. You need to build culture, and you need to control your costs. And all of that will happen by revising your policies and sending them out. As we take a look at the new normal, don't know what that means yet. We're still working towards that, as organizations are. There will be new norms. We will never go back to what was 140 days ago. Back is but a memory. We don't know what the new business as usual will be. And so what is your BAU? What does that look like? And how are you establishing that? You need to acknowledge the tension between getting back to the workplace and rethinking of work, because people and your employees are going to be rethinking about how they work, as they have been all along. And then take an active role in reviewing your strategy, reviewing what needs to be done. Do you have a pandemic response team, and how are they working, and how are they communicating with the rest of the team? You need to consider some key factors against the current strategy and present potential longer-term impacts. And using that SWOT approach, you need to evaluate key factors against the risk and viability matrix. You need to determine or define competitive opportunities and goals for future state. What is your organization really going to look like in the near and distant future? And then conduct scenario planning for best, worst, and most likely scenario, and define any potential implications, and use the SWOT as a roadmap. Update your organization-wide talent strategies. Update your organizational structure, because I'm sure it's changed. And you need to think about all those factors. You need to prepare for and to accommodate and balance the divergent expectations. You need to reinforce the use of team approaches through year end and embed the performance management results. You need to empower your team leads by giving them the development that they need to be successful. And you need to contemplate employees' personal impacts and obligations. The new BAU, rethinking the workforce composition, talent practices, compensation, and leadership attributes. So for conclusion, we've just got a few minutes left. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that we could talk about, and it could be, a half-day presentation, which of course we don't have time for, but there are so many new and wonderful changes happening. We are in a new world of work and social behavior. We are not going back. Back is but a memory. We are moving forward to a new world or a new normal, both work and social and behavioral. We don't know where we will be in the next 12 to 24 months. We don't know what our work and social life and our world will be like. The future is for you to explore, be open to new ideas, and share those new ideas with your colleagues and your family. You need to be comfortable in what's ahead, and building that comfort zone is going to take a lot of flexibility and adaptability and moving forward in the right way for you. You will need to find the best solutions for your organization and your personal future. You will need to embrace it, engage your employees, and continue to share your experience. And the only thing I can leave you with is that you need to communicate, and communicate again. It's never too much, and employees are asking for information. In fact, they're begging for that information if you haven't been sharing with them already. I thank you for your time today. I thank you for listening to me. My name is Anne Bloom. I'm the president owner of ALB HR Solutions, a human resources and business consulting practice. If I can help you in any way, my website is hrsolutions.com, and my email is ann.bloom100@gmail.com. Thank you for your time today. Wishing you all the best.